Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for May 31, 2023, the Holmes Reports edition. And we begin with that story from the New York Times as Elizabeth Holmes reports to prison to begin a more than 11-year prison sentence. The disgraced entrepreneur who's convicted of defrauding investors at her failed startup Theranos reported to federal prison today. She reported to a minimum security prison camp for women in Bryan, Texas, which happens to be my hometown. So we get a celebrity in Bryan. Unfortunately, it's Elizabeth Holmes. Next up, from Reuters, the General Counsel of the NLRB said in a memo that non-compete agreements discourage workers from exercising their rights under U.S. labor laws to advocate for better working conditions and are therefore illegal. This is certainly a change in position of the NLRB that non-competes violate the NLRA. It is consistent with the DOJ's position around non-competes, but this is the first time that I'm aware of that the NLRB has said this. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out in court. Next up, an article from France 24, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, and reports that French prosecutors have charged the ex-FIFA vice president Renard Tamari of Tahiti with corruption involving Qatar's 2022 World Cup bid process. The charge is the first to emerge in a years-long investigation is for passive corruption. The Tamari is the former president of the Oceania Football Confederation, but was forced out in 2010 after being implicated in a vote-selling scandal before the controversial award to Qatar. He was banned for a year from FIFA on September 17, 2010, but then was able to worm his way back in. So the French investigation started in 2019, and now in 2023 is finally coming to fruition. And our final story comes to us from the Wall Street Journal, which reports that Nutanix, a cloud computing software and services provider, said an internal investigation into misuse of software, third-party software intended for evaluation and not available at no cost, has resulted in an $11 million in estimated payouts to the vendors involved. The company said the software was supposed to be only to evaluate, but was used for business purposes by certain company employees. So watch out. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.